Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Chalsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the At the Show podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Tony the Sugar Baggy, aka Spooky Sugar Baggy. Bert, how you doing, my man?
Doing good, doing real spooky. Glad to be here tonight. These are my favorite Fridays because they're in October, and I've been looking forward to them all year. And tonight, I think we're going to talk about some real awesome movies.
Yes, sir. We got a nice little set of movies to go through, which when I looked at our list, they're pretty good. Some well-known, some unknown, not really around movie circles in terms of everybody like the casual watcher of horror movies, but it's going to be a fun episode, man.
I was telling Katie just a little while ago, I was running through the list, and I was like, it's like a murderer's row of amazing movies. So it's going to be a good one, man.
Yes, sir, my man. So let's just roll right into our first segment, my guy. Let's go into what we've been watching this week.
That's a me. And also, what were you just watching?
So what were you watching this week, Tone?
Oh, got a couple movies here. I'm going to start off with Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. One of my personal favorites because it falls into, well, like Tales from the Crypt. It's a bunch of short little stories coming together to make, well, I think an amazing movie. Came out May 4th, 1990. So if you think about it, that's quite a long time ago, 34 years ago, that was released. But at the same time, what's really awesome about it is a lot of the performances in the movie, including the great James Remar, who we've talked about in The Warriors, and this great scene too.
No! Oh. I'm so sorry.
Love that gargoyle episode, but Tales from the Dark Side also has the great Steve Buscemi, Christian Slater, Blondie. Just a really cool movie with a bunch of little cool short little stories. What do you think about this one? Yep.
Very, very good film. I actually like the the story that runs through it, as well as they're telling these stories with the kid and the witch.
Yes.
He's reading the book from the book. As
Blondie. That's Blondie.
Yeah. As he's reading these stories from the book and she's about to eat them. I love this film. I remember first seeing it. The gargoyle story still holds up in terms of like effects, and it's still a creepy one.
Very creepy, very awesome. Big fan of this one. And ironically, in a chat that we were both a part of this week, somebody brought up Trilogy of Terror, and I smiled because I had already put together these slides for the show, and Trilogy of Terror was my pick. Well, especially because of, well, this part. Great little movie. Actually a made-for-TV movie, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. Came out in 1975. It features Karen Black, who appears in all three of the sketches. Another anthology type of movie, why I like it. But the one that it is famous for is the last sketch, which is very, very interesting. Which is called Amelia, which is the last sketch, but it's got this little voodoo guy. Really, really creepy voodoo guy, but got really cool hair and cool teeth. He's got better teeth than most people who don't visit the dentist. But really awesome movie, Trilogy of Terror. I know if you do the 31 Days of Horror again, which amazing job that you are doing, this one definitely is a good pick to do that for.
Yeah, that's the good thing about the 31 Days of Horror. There's so many horror movies out there that I'll probably never run out.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Yeah. The list is done for this year, so this one won't be on it. But I know in our chat they're asking, "Are you gonna do that one?" I'm like, "No, not this year." I try to limit to 1 or 2 anthology films during it. But yeah, it's a good film. The little guy Emilio at the end, he always cracks me up. The little creature guy. It's corny, but it's funny.
Yeah, I still own the DVD of it, which is, I think, a one of a kind, because it's one of those where it's not many people talk about it, which I think is why I enjoy it. And
Mhm.
it's an anthology movie from the 70s, which is also pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, good pick, man.
Thank you. What have you been watching?
So I got my Dracula on, man. I got my vampire fix this week. Me and my wife finally sat down to watch the HBO Max retelling of Salem's Lot, which is a Stephen King novel, and it was retold in the 70s on a TV special that was like a two-parter, and then, of course, there was remakes with Rob Lowe, and now they made a new remake with Lewis Pullman, who you might know from Top Gun: Maverick. He plays Bob Lloyd in that one. And, I was not really expecting much going into it. My wife and I sat down to watch this one. I know Keelan had saw it, and she gave me her thoughts on it. But when I went into it, I was like, "Okay, let's see how it is." I love the effects of it. I thought the effects were cool. It was weird looking at the film because it's a timepiece, like, and set in the '70s, and everything looks so crystal clear. It's kinda like, is this really the '70s? I mean, it kinda had that weird vibe to it. But in terms of the film itself, I felt it was really, really rushed. I wish they kinda woulda cut it up into maybe a series. It would've been better because it looks like they were just jumping from piece to piece really, really quick and trying to close up loose ends. I did think that the vampire that is supposed to be in there, Kurt Barlow, looked great. The other vampires looked cool. The special effects were cool, but it just felt like the story was completely rushed. Have you seen this one?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It was actually one of my picks last week, and I removed it for one of the other ones I talked about. I forgot which one because um that's because I felt I actually probably a little harsher than you are on this movie. Um you ever see that X-Files episode with the dude who was in Sandlot, the catcher? He's like a vampire and he's like a pizza guy. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. It's like
Hamilton Porter?
what'd you say?
Hamilton
Yeah,
Porter?
yeah. Um, the movie is good in one way, but it's something with the camera makes it look, I don't know.
Like a TV movie?
I didn't like it. Like you said, the crystal clearness of it, I guess what it was. Because the original one, even for when it was made, it gives it a more of a gothic feel, I think. And this movie didn't really have that. There was very cool graphics in the movie, and I love Lewis Pullman, but I thought that just there was something missing to it, and you pretty much summed up what was missing, I think.
Yeah, it was weird because, I had watched the original TV movie, years ago. I haven't watched it recently, and when me and my wife were watching it, even, like, the beginning of it, I thought it was gonna be like a period piece for, like, the 1700s, the way they were talking,
Mhm.
and then it was in the '70s, and I'm like, it just looked too it wasn't that grainy, like, look
Yeah,
of age. It was, like, too crystal, like it was just a play.
yeah,
Uh, it looked like a TV movie, but it was rushed worse than a TV movie, which I didn't like. But I mean, they tried. I'll give them that. I've
yeah,
seen worse.
yeah. I mean, and again, that's what's cool about having HBO Max because you didn't have to go to the movie theaters and pay for it. So it was like, okay, it was and I like the way the ending fight scene with the vampire. I mean, there were some things that were positive to it, which I always try to find in it. But yeah, me and Katie sat down and watched it too, and it was, it was serviceable. There's
Mhm.
some new horror movies that are on Hulu that I really want to check out that are getting some pretty good reviews. One with Sarah Paulson, Hold Your Breath, it's called. Um, One with a spider called, oh, I forgot the name of it, but um, these movies are popping up on streaming services, and some of them are not bad. This one was just good and worth the watch. So,
Yeah. It's kinda
yeah.
funny, Sam, you say Salem's parking lots aren't all that great. You should watch the movie because it has a lot to do with the parking lots. Uh, but I also happen to watch a film that I watch every year, and that is the classic Todd Browning, 1931 film, Dracula, which if you don't know, the impact this film had on horror going forward, it basically started the whole, uh, classic horror movie monsters that we love today. Like Dracula's persona was set in this film, and it's all because of the man, the myth, the legend, Bela Lugosi, who was Hungarian. He had an accent, and that's where Dracula got the accent from. We got the death stare from Bela Lugosi. The man, basically molded what Dracula should be in a film. And it's a classic. It's a film that doesn't have any music in it. Yes, Dracula. Yes, doesn't have any music in it, which is kind of weird if you're used to watching modern films. But the silence of everything makes it so good. You have Renfield, who is played by I forget who his name is. Oh my goodness, I can't think of his name now. But the character of Renfield is probably one of my favorite characters in the film, due to the actor, Dwight Frye. Dwight Frye plays Renfield, and his, whole dialogue of rats, thousands of them. He does an excellent job. To be honest with you, I like this version better than the Bram Stoker version, even though it's more updated. But just because of Lugosi, I thought it was great done. It's, all-time classic, and it set the standard for the movie monsters from Universal. And that's why, you kinda have, the Universal movie monsters now because this started off the whole 30s boom. What do you think about this one, Tone?
Uh, Bela Lugosi's awesome. It's been a couple years since I've seen it, but your description of it makes me want to watch it like tomorrow night and turn all the lights off. Um, One of my favorite Tim Burton movies is Ed Wood, which has
Mhm.
got a Bela Lugosi performance by in that movie, not by Bela Lugosi, but a little bit behind the scenes later in his life.
Martin Landau.
Um, just really interesting to think back to way prior to what they show in Ed Wood, like during this time period when he was like a god on the screen, you know what I mean? And Dracula is one of the all-time horror icons, and we did a whole episode on great vampire movies, and this one could have been at the top of the peak. So of course, another great pick.
Yeah, and it's crazy because Lugosi, after he made this film, he was, his star rose really, really big. And he was offered Frankenstein. He turned it down because he wanted to be under makeup. And of course, Boris Karloff got Frankenstein. And Karloff's, career way outlasted Lugosi in terms of money and star power. And Lugosi kind of regretted not being Frankenstein, but it just, he set it off, and then basically, he kind of died not as wealthy due to turning down certain roles. But he loved this role so much, he got actually buried in the Dracula costume.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So if you haven't seen the original 1931 Dracula, check it out. And to be honest, if you're a Spanish speaker, the 1931 Spanish version of Dracula is actually very, very good as well. So check that one out. But
Um,
go ahead.
go on.
No, go ahead.
Before we move on to our feature presentation, I had a quick just before we got on here, I read that you're a big book reader, right? Did you
Mhm.
ever read the American Psycho book?
Yes.
Is it a lot different than the movie?
Yeah, it's different parts in there. Yeah.
Because they're talking about just got announced they're not remaking it, but I guess they're making it a more truer adaptation to the book. Um, how would you feel about something like that?
Um, I have a later on in our show. I'm probably gonna go on a rant about something, but I don't mind it, but I also would like Hollywood to come up with original ideas.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's
I'm
always
kinda sick of recycling ideas. It's becoming a norm. Even, the Coppola film is a recycled idea that bombed, you know?
Oh, sure did.
Uh, I mean, from as much crap as the Joker Part 2 is getting for being a musical, it tried something new, so I'll give it that. Like, it tried something new and it just failed. But,
True.
like, recycling ideas is just to me, is just I don't know, it gets old. I know they do it for cash grabs and whatnot. If they make it, fine. To be honest with you, I probably won't watch it. But it is what it is. I'm just used to Hollywood just trying to do cash grabs now.
That's true. That's true. I was just curious. Thanks. Thanks for answering. Yeah. Always a blast.
No problem, my friend. But that is what we've watched this week. Let us know what you watched over on Twitter or X or wherever Elon decides to call it before he sells it and keeps fucking up that website
Ugh.
because he's a technological genius. Remember that, guys. He knows so much about technology. Uh, but yeah, let us know at the comments and on this YouTube video, or let us know at Lil Yumper on Twitter, or the Sugar Baggy on Twitter, or the Hookup on Music on Twitter. But before we get to our main event, Tone, we got some housekeeping to do. And the first thing I want to talk about is a little GoFundMe that we have. A little GoFundMe that we have that is actually has kind of a little personal involving from one of our fellow penguins, and that's Marj. Unfortunately, her brother-in-law, who had been cancer free for a little bit, his cancer has come back, and he's battling his second battle. He fought very hard for 6 months and was clear on stage 4 cancer, and now it's come back, unfortunately for him. And they're trying to raise some money for Shane to help with his medical bills and his family right now. Uh, they're already raised up to the $25,000 goal. They've raised 21,000. So thank you for everyone who has donated. But every little bit helps if you can help out Shane. Has stage 4 Hodgkin's, and this is just to help alleviate his family in terms of the medical bills and to help with proper care for him as he goes through this battle. And we're hoping that he kicks cancer's ass again and gets through this because he's done it before, and just going another round for cancer. And we're all here to help everybody, within our penguin family and also our friends. So it really, really would mean a lot if you guys could, if you have $1 or anything that can help out, it's greatly appreciated. I'll drop the link in the chat right now, and I'll also have it on the video for the podcast. So when you go to the live version of the video on YouTube, it'll be on the podcast version, and it's also in the chat right now if you want to check that out. But yeah, just anything to help out Marj and her family, and if you can, please donate.
Yes, I mean it's very important because anytime just going and setting all of this up or for the slide even and looking at the GoFundMe and seeing how much has been raised so far, it definitely makes you want to help and just get them over the top of where they want to be, which is so close.
Yeah. Cancer sucks, man. I know we both have family members affected by it, friends, and the person has a family. So if you have extra change to spare out, that'd be great.
Yes.
But so let's transition from this and go into what we're going to talk about for the show. We could do our commercial break probably in our halfway point.
Yeah.
But so when we were coming up with ideas for this month, we kind of went through themes of like, okay, we're going to talk about vampire films, and then we're going to talk about our favorite slashers, and then Tony came up with the film ideas of we're going to talk about films that actually kind of freaked us out or made us uncomfortable in terms of horror films. Now, those who know me, I'm not really a person that scares easily in terms of scary films, but there are films that make me feel uneasy in certain ways. So I was really excited to go through like films in my list and see what I could put down. I was really excited to see what you put down. And there's a couple of films that are actually related that we put, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a fun one because this is the films that scare us or kind of make us feel uneasy. or they could also make you feel uneasy. Some of these ones you might know, some of these ones you might not know. But I'm really looking forward to this one, Tom.
The ones that are related too, I was planning to pick before you sent me your list too. So what was cool was once you sent it to me, I had a choice. Do I pull back or do I go in? And then even when we set them up, I'm like, I got to make sure we set them up correctly too here. And this is going to be a good time.
Yes, sir. You ready to get into the first one?
Let's do it.
And the old gods, the rightful masters, are jealous, watching mankind with a hatred that is as boundless as the stars, with plans for the destruction of man that are beyond imagining.
1987's The Gate, directed by Tibor Takacs, who also directed Black Warrant, I, Madman, Sabrina the Teenage Witch movie, and The Secret Ingredient TV movie. The movie stars Stephen Dorff, Kristen Denton, Louis Tripp, and Kelly Rowan. The movie had a box office of $13.5 million on a budget of $1.8 and $268K in home market releases. I'm sorry, I laughed because my wife put The Substance, and that movie was not a good movie, she said. So this film, The Gate, is one of my picks, and it's the reason I say that it creeped me out due to the little creatures that are in it. It's one of those films that is a Canadian film. It's basically these kids find a meteor that they find, they crack it open, and it releases basically a gateway to hell. It always interests me how they did the special effects of it. When reading about it, they had the guys dress up in rubber suits and did it from a different perspective and made them look small, which I always thought was pretty funny. But just the little creatures that come from hell, the special effects still hold up today. Like when the parents come to visit them and they're not really the parents, and he puts his fingers in their eyes and their face melts. The demon at the end, even the part I just played of the creepy kid listening to the record, it basically touched on all things that people were afraid of in the 80s, the Satanism rise, the playing of music that is supposed to be satanic if you play it backwards, because they do it in here. It's actually a spell that comes through on the record, and it's a young Stephen Dorff who's in this film, who we might remember from Blade as the bad guy. So it's kind of funny he played a vampire later on. But Tone, have you seen this one?
Oh man, I love this movie so much. When you sent me the list and I saw it at the top, I immediately was like, man, this is gonna be awesome. I've always wanted, after 100 and something podcasts, I've always wanted to talk about The Gate. So you picking The Gate was great because I've watched The Gate since honestly 10, 11, 12. I mean, I remember seeing it on TV. And I remember thinking the claim, it still holds up too. The movie holds up. The graphics, I think, still hold up. The plot still holds up. I like Stephen Dorff's friend in the movie. He does a really great job. Of course, being not only a music fan, but back in the day, really big into heavy metal. The whole idea of playing the heavy metal record backwards was amazing to me. Just really cool, the way the whole, the parents go out of town and the sister has her friends over, and then just all hell breaks loose, literally.
Yeah, the part that always sticks out to me is when his friend Terry is like dancing with the dog. He thinks it's his mom who passed, and it's actually the dog who died. It's just so random. But yeah, like the picture you're putting up of the little creatures, they're freaky to look at, man.
They are.
They're really, really freaky. And there's a part where a body, basically like a zombie, they knock over, and then when it falls over, all of them come out of it. Basically, they made up of it, which is actually a pretty cool like stop motion shot. Yeah, it still holds up to this day. It's a freaky film. Super, super scary, no, but it still will make you feel uneasy, especially even the parts from Terry, who's not even a bad person in the film. Just like his whole monologue right there when he's doing the repeating what's on the record he's listening to, the vinyl, and he's under the cover doing that. It's just a freaky scene. But if you haven't seen this one, definitely check it out. The Gate 2 is, I don't think it's that great, but this one I think is good. Another film that Hollywood wants to remake.
A quick story, I'll never forget it. I was visiting a friend who was at Purdue at the time. It was like 2003. And I was in a Walgreens and I found The Gate on DVD. And I'm like, I got to buy this. and they looked at me like I was crazy because no one else had heard of what The Gate was. And I bought it and I made them watch it, and then they were like, "Okay, this movie's awesome. How did I never heard of The Gate?" But I'll always remember that. I found it in a Walgreens in Lafayette. But great movie, man. Great movie.
Yeah. One of my favorites. One of my family's favorites.
Good
Uh,
one.
but if you haven't seen this one, check this one out. But Tone, let's get into your next film, my friend.
First I played with Dad, then Mommy came, and I played with Mommy. We played, Daddy. We had an awful good time. Now I want to play with you.
1989's Pet Sematary, directed by Mary Lambert, who did The In Crowd. She did the Madonna Like a Prayer video, and she also did an episode of The Blacklist. So not a big director credits for her, but it stars Dale Midkiff, Dennis Crosby, Brad Greenquist, and the great Fred Gwynn, aka Herman Munster. The film had a box office of $57.5 million on a budget of $11.5 million and 595,000 in home market performances. Tone, tell me why you picked Pet Sematary.
Well, first of all, you were right at the beginning. I mean, nothing really scares me anymore. But when this movie, I remember specifically, this movie was I rented it, but I was under the guise that I would have been watching it with my dad, but he worked midnights that night, so I sat by myself and watched it. And then I'll never forget it. I mean, you know, the idea of the movie, I mean, you got to understand, I probably watched this in 1990. I'm 8, 9 years old. I'm sitting there by myself, different time period. I mean, I don't think I would leave my daughter to watch this by herself, but I'm sitting there, and then this scene comes on the screen. And I like never forget, like I like ran out of, I like shut it off, and like I ran into my mom's room, and I'll ever run, I go, mom, I can't, I just saw the scariest thing I think I've ever seen. And I didn't go back and watch it because I think I was too afraid to see what he was going to look like after the truck, but they didn't show that. But the psychological of the movie, and then I watched it later and I realized, you know, the scene, if you're looking on the screen, just there's a whole lot of things in the movie that are very mentally jarring. But the idea that there's this place that if a pet you love, or even somebody else like a human that you love, could pass away and you could bury them there and they come back, it's a pretty interestingly crazy idea.
Yeah, it's ridiculous in terms of, you know, the thought of it. They're buried on a Native American burial ground, which is supposed to be cursed, and that's scary in its alone, you know. But the scene that you're showing on the screen with Zelda, the six sisters, and one of the parts that always was kind of freaky to me because of how she moaned.
Oh yeah.
Like, and you know, the girl who played a young woman in the film, that's supposed to be the younger character of the wife. She does a great job in showing the terror that she has from it. Just going up to her room, and she says how she hated going to her room because she had to feed her. And you kind of feel bad for Zelda, but then like there's scenes where she's laughing at her, and you're like, "Holy shit, what is going on?" Like, how would you feel if you had a sibling who was like so scary that you were afraid to go up there to see them? It's ridiculous. Um, it's just I love this film. I love the book. The book has a great ending, and I thought this film, you know, followed it pretty well. You know, Stephen King, master of horror. He probably, you know, nobody comes close. I really, really appreciate the performance of Fred Gwynn. I thought Fred Gwynn did a great job in this film as Judd. I was really, even though I read the book before I saw the film, I was upset that he died
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
film. But you know, there's certain little change, like you said, there's little changes in the book than here. You know, they have more of a Native American folklore in the book than they do in the film. But I thought it was really, really done well. King liked it. He appeared in it as a minister in the film. I thought it was excellently done. It still holds up to this day. I did doing some research for this. I thought it was pretty crazy that the character of Lewis Creed, who's played by the main character, main actor Dale Midkiff, was actually offered to Bruce Campbell.
Wow.
and he couldn't do it. But I don't know if I would have. I would. I mean, I love Bruce and everything, but I don't know if Bruce could have pulled it off like in this one.
No, I don't know. I mean, it takes the role took a serious tone. I don't know if Bruce would have brought that to the role. Um,
Mhm.
for me personally, I mean, the Ramones' Pet Cemetery is probably one of my all-time favorite songs, let alone Halloween time songs. Just because uh the lyrics and the way the movie it ends and the way it fits into the movie. I mean, you don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery. I mean, you don't want to live your life that way. That's exactly what the lyrics say, and that's the movie pretty much makes me feel like. And honestly, another reason I picked this movie is because last week we brought up Child's Play and the remake of Child's Play. I I personally didn't have a problem with the remake of this movie either. The one with John Lithgow, who played Fred Gwynn's spot, again, wasn't better by any stretch or any means, but and then they did one on Paramount Plus last year that was or 2 years ago. It was like another it was called, I think, Pet Cemetery Bloodlines or something along that. Wasn't terrible, but, again, I like this movie.
Yeah, I do too. And the young actor who plays Gage, Miko Hughes, who you're showing a picture of, does an excellent job as a freaky, monster. Uh, and this is a kind of a thing I found when I was looking for research for here. People were criticizing. They're like, "You're gonna scare this kid because he's an actor and you're scaring him in his scenes." Well, the director actually took him away during more action scenes in terms of more horror scenes. That she took him away, and they were actually carrying around a dummy, or it was a dummy that was used in place of him, so it wouldn't bother him in the future. And I thought that was kind of cool that they didn't want to traumatize the kid going forward, because
Yeah.
there's some heavy stuff in here. And before we move on, like I really, really liked also Brad Greenquist's portrayal of Victor Pascal, the ghost that basically keeps telling
Yes.
you have to do certain things, and it's kind of horrible because he has like a split open head the whole
Yeah.
time. He's telling him, don't do this and don't do that, and he eventually ignores him. Um, it's an awesome film. It has like ghosts in it. It has paranormal resurrections of the dead. It has a kid turns into a monster. Like folklore. It has all that stuff you want in the film, all rolled into one. It's one of King's best books, if not one of his best films that was made from a book.
Awesome movie. Again, very awesome, very scary to me as a young kid, and if you're never seen it, again, I would bet if you watch it for the first time, it'll give you a couple chills at some spots.
Yeah, good one, man. Good pick.
Thank
Let's go on to our next one.
Little Tommy Daggett, how I loved listening to your sweet prayers every night. And then you'd jump in your bed, so afraid I was under there. And I was.
1995's The Prophecy, directed by Gregory Whitten, who only directed one other publication, which was Tales from the Crypt. He directed the episode Halfway Horrible, but he also wrote a lot of good films such as Backdraft, Highlander, also horrible films like Backdraft 2 and Highlander 2, The Quickening. So he's hit or miss when it comes to writing films. But this film stars Christopher Walken, Elias Kostis, Virginia Madsen, and Eric Stoltz, along with Amanda Plummer and Viggo Mortensen. The movie had a box office of 16 million on a budget of 8 million. Now, I remember when this film first came out, I did not see it in theater. My cousin actually rented it from Masterpiece Video, and I watched it with her when I was younger, around the time it came out. It always freaked me out for the portrayal of the angels and, you know, just to portray how they look, the little scenes where they cut through him imagining what's going on in heaven and the battle between, you know, the angels, between the angel, like basically a civil war between the angels. And it kind of goes up to the encapsulation of Viggo Mortensen's portrayal of the devil, which I think is probably one of the best portrayals without you having to use makeup that much for it. His creepiness, just his monologue, like that was his monologue talking to Elias Kostis about him being under his bed when he thinks about him. is awesome. Probably one of the top 3 devils in my opinion that I could think of. Uh, this film to me is just creepy because of the whole storyline of basically angels are getting mad that they don't have souls and they're rebelling against God, led by the Archangel Gabriel, who's played by Christopher Walken. And due to this, God's not letting anybody pass into heaven or hell, which is pissing off the devil as well. So there's this, they're killing each other. They show the battles, and they're basically trying to find a general soul that will help a bad guy soul that will actually help the bad angels take over heaven and overthrow God. I thought Christopher Walken, even though for him being weird, does a great job in his film. And there's also some humor in this film as well. When he resurrects somebody from the dead before they suicide or something like that, he resurrects them and then he makes them basically be his slave. They have to drive him around because he doesn't know how to drive and the shit he says. He's like, the guy's like, just kill me now, Gabriel. And he's like, you'll get it. You'll get it. Okay. And like, just like Christopher Walken is so great just for his mannerisms, his voice. He goes, you know how you got that clip on your lip? When you were little, I put my finger to your face and went, shh. Just like stuff like that.
That's a good part.
Yeah. What about you, Tom? What do you think about this one?
A great movie. Again, didn't see it at the theater, but I do remember walking past like when it was actually like going into another theater. And back in the day, above the theater, they used to have like, it was like a little slip of like the movie that, but like it wasn't digital like it is now. It was like actually like a little poster. But I remember like going, oh, that'd be cool if we were seeing The Prophecy. But I actually saw it on VHS pretty quickly when it came out. I mean, it's cool for its time. I remember thinking of this friend of mine who liked dark movies, was like, this movie's awesome. He always wanted to watch it when we were together. Sequels aren't, at least the second one. I mean, it's not awful, but this movie though is cool for what it is. For some reason, I don't know why. Even when I saw it, I always think of Eric Stoltz for some reason. His performance in this movie quite a bit.
Yeah, he's strange in this film too. The way he talks.
He is, and that's why I think I remember it, because it's like, again, The Mask, and then I'm like, oh my god, this is a different actor. But and then if you see him in Butterfly Effect, then he's really, really off the wall. I mean, but again, great movie, great pick. Christopher Walken, I mean, I laughed because I was looking at last week, so I was listening to the show, and I talked about the Dead Zone when he's like, the ice is gonna break. I mean, this movie's loaded with great Walken-isms and great performances all around. I think it's also one of the first times where, like, when the angels, like a eunuch or whatever, like they like when he's like getting what is that? They're doing the autopsy on him. Where it was the first time, like at like 10 years old, I didn't really understand what that was. And now I know what it is, like, but it was just a very cool movie for the time.
Yeah, and the dialogue actually is not that bad in the film. When Costas is telling him why he's asking Gabriel, why didn't you just ask God, to tell him why you were upset and why'd you have to go to war? And I love the line he gives him. He's just like, he doesn't listen to me anymore.
Yeah.
That was like Walken does a great job. And I love the way, like, the picture showing right now how they stand. It has like a very, very intricate and like cool, mannerisms of the angels, like how they sit and stand. Like he's basically perching on a tombstone right now. Eric Stoltz does that when he's reading on a chair, like he's sitting and perching. They call everybody by their first name, which always cracks me up. Leave, Thomas, or But it's definitely a film that still holds up today. And I did like the sequels mostly because Walken's in most of the sequels. Yeah. They're not horrible. So is this like an excellent film? No, not by any means, but it's a film that's creepy in its own way. And if you haven't seen this one, check this one out too. This is worth the watch. If Christopher Walken alone.
It's a good 1995 was a great year. I mean, to see movies. So you're saying to yourself, it's a great 1995 movie. So yeah, definitely check this one out.
Yeah, check this one out. Let's move on to our next one, my friend.
Come and play with us, Daddy. Forever and last forever.
1980's The Shining, directed by the great Stanley Kubrick, who also directed films such as Clockwork Orange, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Full Metal Jacket, Barry Lyndon, Doctor Strangelove, Eyes Wide Shut, Spartacus, Path of Glory, and Lolita. This film stars Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd, Scatman Crothers, and Philip Stone. The movie had a budget of $19 million and made a box office of $47 million with 7.7 in home market sales. Colin, tell me why you picked this one, my friend.
Well, I love this movie a lot. It's probably the movie that around the same time as Pet Sematary, it scared me because honestly, I didn't even get through the credits because that's how much the credits scared me. The music, you know how much I love music. The music in the credits scared me. It was like a big, loud production. And again, I was trying to watch it by myself. I had this friend, and I'll never forget it. He when I went over to his house to spend the night on a Friday night, he wanted to go to bed at 9:30. So I called my mom and I was like, "Mom, I'm not feeling well. Can you come pick me up?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure, Tony. You're not feeling well, of course." And I get in the car and I go, "Thank you, Mom." He wanted me to go to bed at 9:30, and I'm not going to bed at 9:30. So I got home and I'm like, I'm gonna watch The Shining. You're gonna watch it with me? And she's like, "No, I'm going to bed." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll watch this movie." And like I said, I didn't get through the credits because I was that scared. But I always remember that story. But I could piece this movie can take apart in different pieces of why I love it. I mean, you mentioned Scatman Crothers. I love Scatman Crothers in this movie. He's another amazing performance. Jack Nicholson. Probably one of my favorite things in the whole movie is the dialogue.
When do you think maybe he should be taken to a doctor? As soon as possible. As soon as possible.
I've probably done as soon as possible, but so many times. I just like a lot of the dialogue, and I love Jack, man. I'm a big Jack Nicholson fan, and I think the idea of Jack being out with Stanley Kubrick on this movie set and filming this movie would be awesome.
Yeah, it's iconic because this film ranks along the top films ever made in terms of any genre. This film, basically put the standard in horror, which is done again by a book by Stephen King. If you guys don't see a theme, we have 2 Stephen King things on here. But, it's masterfully done in terms of visuals, in terms of music. The opening credits is something that you mentioned when they're just going through the driving up to the Overlook Hotel. And the Overlook Hotel is a real place that is haunted. It's a place that actually exists, and it's actually a place that has been known to be haunted. So there were things that happened on this area when, there was filming and when there was, there's been ghost shows done there. Jack Nicholson is probably more famous for the "Here's Johnny." It's probably his biggest thing. The "Here's Johnny" quote, and then you have, the Shelley Duvall with her character screaming. You have Danny Lloyd with his character and Red Rum. There's so many iconic scenes that come from this. And one of the things that sticks out to me the most is that Stephen King did not like this adaptation of the film, which is surprising to me because everybody loves it so much. King had some issues with the changes that Kubrick made in terms of how the film went. And he tried to talk to Kubrick about not casting Jack Nicholson in the lead instead of asking for Michael Moratney or John Voight. And King felt that watching either of them normally looking people gradually descend into madness was better. Was gradually better for them to descend into madness. And it's kind of crazy that he didn't want Jack Nicholson to be in this film, but we all know that Jack's one of the greatest actors of all time. So I kind of disagree with Stephen King there. I also kind of agree with him in terms of, I guess he wanted to be more closer to the source material. The ending of this film is when he gets frozen, and in the book, the boiler room thing happens, where the boiler room blows up and the Overlook Hotel is actually burnt down. And there's a transition scene in the book where he lets Danny go when he's about to kill him, which shows one last ounce of humanity in, you know, Jack Torrance. And then after he lets him go, he smashes his face with a sledgehammer to basically make the full transformation into like a person that's not human anymore. So King was kind of upset about all that. Also, just reading the stuff about Kubrick and him being crazy with taking 1,000, takes of one scene. Scatman Crothers, who was, basically brought onto the film by Jack Nicholson, he was recommended. He said he would never work with Kubrick again because the way Kubrick treated him.
Sorry about that.
It's okay, because the way Kubrick treated him, and it's kind of crazy. Like he would make him break down and cry. Kubrick made him make Scatman Crothers break down and cry, and same thing with Shelley Duvall. He did not treat her that great, and Jack Nicholson had a tough time with it as well. It's just there's so much history in this film that it just shows the good and bad side of Kubrick. And before I end my rant here, my long monologue here, the reason I brought up in previous film, Pet Sematary, about the child being, people were afraid the child would be traumatized. Kubrick actually did the same thing with Danny Lloyd in this film. Danny Lloyd did not know they were filming a horror film. He actually was only there for certain scenes. And most of the scenes where they're either chasing the child or whatnot are done with a dummy, a life-size dummy. And that was for Kubrick to spare him being scared, which I thought was kind of cool that he actually had the compassion enough to do that. But again, The Shining is always considered one of the best horror films of all time. So great.
I mean, it's again, the way it ends, the way it's wrapped up, the overall just presentation that Kubrick does. I like it a lot. Just please don't ever play the version that came out on ABC, please. That one does scare me a lot more, because to think that Steven Weber could ever even touch this performance. But I know Stephen King liked that one more for some unknown reason.
It's because it was closer to his book. But we were talking about like how the music scared you. So my freshman roommate in college, his name was Tom too, which is kind of funny. We all sat down to watch a movie in our dorm room. It was me, him, a couple of girls from the 8th floor, and then a couple of our friends that lived on the 3rd floor. And we were all in our room and we're watching The Shining, right? And he's always said it creeped him out because of the twins, the girls.
Yeah, pretty scary stuff.
Playing, and when they show the music and they show the girls, like the appearance of the girls, like just a flash of them. And he goes, so like that's what he literally did during then. And so now, even to this day, like I'll text that to him during Halloween, and he's always like, he just laughs. But when we all walked out to let the girls go on the elevator to go to their rooms, and we walked them out, and he was in the room by himself, and the movie started over again on DVD. And he's like, he came out, he's like, guys, the music just started playing. I couldn't deal with it. I was sitting there alone and the music's playing. It freaked me out. I always remember that because it made me laugh. But it definitely gives you a lot of freaky vibes, this whole film.
Definitely does, man.
Yeah, if you haven't read the book, the movie's a good, starter point. If you read the book, there are going to be differences in it, but I like both. I actually do like both of them. Jack,
the book though is really gruesome though, and that ABC movie is not gruesome at all. So like that's why, I mean, yes, there is like the shrubs coming to life. There are some things different to it, but there's still a lot of things missing, I think, from the book, like in the gory category, right?
Yeah, and like I said, when the book it's room 217, the room 237. 217, and in the movie it's 217.
Gotcha.
237 in the movie. I'm sorry, 237 in the movie, 217 in the book. But in that scene in the book, like it's still, you could still feel kind of a little anxiety the way King describes it. It's one of those few scenes in the books that, and I'll go to another one when we get, in our next film, that was like, holy shit, like you felt anxiety on you when you were reading it. And I thought Kubrick did a great job in kind of portraying that in this film, with the lady in the bathtub. I thought it was really, really done well. Also, the blood coming on the elevators. Everybody makes fun of that, the blood, but I think that everything wraps up really nicely into a bow. Is that the real place they filmed that was really haunted. So,
oh yeah,
I think I still believe the place is still standing. You go visit it. But yeah, it's really haunted. So you can go see where The Shining was made, and I'm pretty sure that probably made Kubrick crazy too. Is the place being haunted?
Yeah.
Mailman Jack says this movie ruined the great outdoors for him.
The movie with Dan Aykroyd? No, I'm just kidding.
That's a great film too, where the bear gets its ass shot off.
Yeah, it's great.
But if you haven't seen The Shining, be sure to check that one out. Like I said, the film was ranked 75th of the greatest films of all time on a director's poll in 2012. That's of all films, it's 75th, which is pretty high. Uh, this one is considered like the Godfather of horror, like one of the Godfather of horror films. So be sure to check this one out if you haven't. Good pick, Tom.
Thank you.
Go into the next one, my friend.
Those mouths eat time. They eat your days on Earth. They just gobble them up. It's enough to make a man sick. And this is the medicine. So tell me, bub, are you gonna take your medicine?
2019's Doctor Sleep was directed by Mike Flanagan, who did The Life of Chuck, Oculus, Hush, Abyssina, and Ouija, Origin of Evil. The film stars Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, Kylie Curran, Cliff Curtis, Zahn McLaren, and Emily Allen Lind. The film had a budget of $45 million and a box office of $72 million, with $12 million in home office sales. This is my pick, which I thought was great when I saw The Shining, and I'm letting this is Doctor Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining and written by Stephen King off his novel of the same name. This film to me was not scary, but it made me feel very uneasy. This is one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book by King, along with It, the original. The It. It's just a very long book, but that's very good too. But this was probably my second favorite book by him because it makes you feel extremely uneasy reading it. There's certain scenes in it that freak you out, and there's also in the film certain visual scenes that freak you out. One that comes to the mind is when the True Knot, which is basically a group of people who go and find psychics and basically suck up their life force to make them live longer. Yes, Jen's talking about here. They basically harm a kid who has psychic abilities, and they kill him. And one of the worst parts is when he tells him, "Are you going to hurt me?" And she says, "Oh, yes, we are." And she's the kid's screaming, and they're basically stabbing him to endure pain out of him, and basically taking his life force away. Is really hard to watch. In the book, it's really hard to read, but it's an excellently done film. The book is different from the film. I actually prefer the film version over the book, which is, like I said, it's probably my favorite King book. Which is surprising to me because I'm always like, "Oh, the book is better." I thought it was excellently done. King loved this film as well. Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hat did a great job in the film. You have throwbacks to The Shining with what we just heard, where a person is playing the Jack Nicholson character, which he did a great job. And they have that dialogue between Danny and his dad when he's at the Overlook. I thought that was excellently done well. It's just a awesome film, awesome story. Also, the audiobook is great tone. It's actually read by Will Patton of the Remember the Titans fame that you might know him for. Excellent actor, and he does the whole audio version of it, which I love too. Yeah, if you have Audible, you can check that out as well. So if you have not seen this one, watch The Shining and watch this film. You'll love them both. Tone, what do you think about this one?
I love Doctor Sleep. Again, as you stated, great. It's different than The Shining, which is why I like it. I think if it was the same, I don't know if I would like it, because then you're like, that's a classic. But it's different. And I really like Rebecca Ferguson's performance in this. Her eyes are awesome. Those eyes when they're like all white, really cool. Ewan McGregor, always great, does a great job in this movie. I like a lot of just the way it kind of does tie back to the original one too, but like in a different way. As you stated, it makes you feel more uneasy, as scared. Like The Shining kind of left me feeling. This one left me feeling a little bit more like uneasy.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those films that just leaves you feeling uneasy. And it's like the graphics still hold up. It's a newer film. It's only 5 years old. But the graphics still hold up. The story still holds up. You get immersed in the characters, which I think is always a good thing for any, book to film story. Especially the character of Cliff Curtis. Like you kind of get like in the book you do as well, but you kind of get into his character being, Danny's friend from AA that took a chance on him
Yeah.
and he eventually has a demise. But Henry Thomas does a great job as the bartender who's supposed to be Jack Nicholson, and
Mhm.
has a lot of mannerisms towards him. It just ties so many good things together. Uh, and the crazy thing is, in the book, the Overlook Hotel is actually burnt down. Like they're on a platform, basically, the wooden floor of the Overlook Hotel, because in the original book, the boiler room blew up and the hotel burned down. Well, in this film, they're actually back at the Overlook Hotel, and Mike Flanagan, who directed this, had to go and recreate the sets of the Overlook Hotel that they used from
Mm,
blueprints from the original Kubrick movie, which I thought was awesome. So he had to go to Kubrick's estate and get those set designs, which I
very
thought
awesome.
was pretty cool. Uh, I don't know if they filmed on location for this one, like they did the other one, but that's still kind of cool that he used the set designs that Kubrick had originally used. So there's history there, and it's just masterfully done. Ian McGregor does a great job as Danny Torrance. Everything is wrapped up in a nice bow. I can, go on forever how much I love this film. Um, and it's creepy. My wife thought it was creepy as well. If you haven't seen this one, definitely check it out.
Excellent movie.
This next one's an excellent one too, and extremely creepy as well.
A deity? What kind of deity?
A very obscure one, dating back to Babylonian times, named Bagul, the eater of children.
Did you say eater?
Yes, of children. Thank you, Jessica. The crimes that you're dealing with, they all have the element of a missing child, correct?
Yes, yeah. It's correct.
Well, Bagul eats children.
2012's Sinister, directed by Scott Derrickson, who did Doctor Strange, Love in the Ruins, The Exorcism, Emily Rose, Hellraiser, Inferno, Deliver Us from Evil, The Black Phone, and VHS 85. The film stars Ethan Hawke, Juliet Reynolds, Fred Thompson, Michael Hall, Dee Argento, and Claire Foley. The film had a budget of $3 million and a box office of $82.5 million, with 14.9 in home market sales. Tone, tell us why you picked this one.
Scary. I mean, this is probably one that really scared me in the most recent times. When bringing up the topic to Katie, this was the one she suggested. She won't even let me put this one on anymore for some reason. It just came out of nowhere, and if you've ever seen the sequel, it's nowhere near as scary as this one is. Just very, very excellent performances by Ethan Hawke. Just very, very aura is a good thing in this movie, is the way that the aura is created. But you recently talked about the Black Phone, which Ethan Hawke is in, and I just think he's a great actor. And I think he's one of the reasons the movie does well, but also the way the movie is the way it is paced, the way that film keeps showing the people hanging in the trees, the way the music is like intertwined in there too. Very, very scary. Very, 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 very scary.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about this film is, although the poster has a lot of blood in it, there isn't a lot of blood in it. There's very little of it. There's almost no cursing in the film. There's no sex in this film, and it's still got a rated R rating.
And those are all downfalls, which I'm shocked I still like it. No, I'm just kidding.
Nah, which is still just shows you how like of a gruesome film this is. I love the story about it. I love that it's a entity from Sumerian times, and like you have, you know, it basically gets the kids to do certain things. It reminds me a lot of older films, like Ringu, which actually inspired some of the people to write it. It's I love the backstory of it. The vintage film of when he's looking at the old videos of what happened to the crimes is great.
Oh yeah.
Ethan Hawke does a great job in exploring everything. He's also a weird guy, but you know why he's weird? Because he's trying to write a story about the household, but he moves his family into a household where people were murdered, which is pretty crazy. But you have, great performances by him. The kids, like the scene that you're showing right here, is crazy. Bagul looks scary. I still haven't seen the sequel, Tone, so I will have to check that one out.
I really ran to watch it because this one was just so scary because I was just anything that just even came close to it. And maybe I was just maybe I was just in a bad mood. I don't know. Because this
Yeah.
one just I think left such a Fred Thompson's in this movie. Who was honestly earlier I had Law and Order on and he was in that. He does a good job in this movie. A lot of just I think the performances in the movie just really make it really a good job. Um I really like James Ramsome, I think is his name is in this. And if you're not familiar with him, he did a really great job in The Wire season 2, I believe it was when they were on the docks. Just a really great performance by him as the sheriff, but the ghoul or the entity in it just really sticks with you.
Yeah, he's definitely creepy. And James Ransoni is actually he was Eddie from It Chapter
That's what it
2.
was too. Yes,
Yeah, he was
yes.
Eddie in there. He's also in Black Phone. He plays Ethan Hawke's brother in that film.
Which
Max.
is cool how he kind of like,
Yeah.
I see him in The Wire, and then next thing you know, he's in this, and he's in that, and he's in this, and he's in that.
Yeah, this film is definitely creepy. Katie already told my wife she can't watch it, so I was gonna ask my wife to watch this one, but she can't. But in terms of sequels, how you're talking about, you ran to see the sequel and you were let down. That's kind of scares me a little bit about Smile 2. I'm really looking forward to seeing it, but I've heard some people say they didn't like it, even though I haven't read too much into it. I really enjoyed the first one. Like I really liked the first one. Uh, so I'll see it and see how it is. But yeah, I'm kind of worried about. Oh, please don't let it be as bad.
I watched the trailer tonight. I mean, if I know trailers are no indication, but you expand the trailer, I think it'll be a pretty good movie. But I also need to read a little bit too, because if I start reading things, then I'm a big reader. I could tell you right away after reading about 10 things if it's good or not. People aren't wrong when they go and see a movie, usually, especially with the bad stuff. You might want to wait, but we'll see. We'll see.
Sam says Smile 2 frowned.
I
Oh,
like it.
Sam. You are hilarious. Uh, but yeah, I try not to read too many of the reviews because I don't want to influence me before I go see it. Katie says Smile 2 looks scary as hell, and the first one freaked me out. Yeah, the first one is very freaky. We had people in our theater. We went to a late night show. I actually went to go see it with my mom. She's everybody, like, if you guys know me, my mom influenced me with horror. Like me and my brother, that's the person that got us into horror movies. Jenny wouldn't go see it because Jenny's not a big fan of possession movies. So any possession movie we watch, Jenny will not watch. She doesn't like any of that. So my mom and me went, and they had some young kids there, and when stuff would happen, they'd be like, "Oh shit, oh shit!" It was great when we were there. So it kind of like made the film experience better in the theater. But it's definitely one of those films that I loved to see. So I'll see it and I'll report back to you guys
Please,
how it
please
was.
do.
But yeah, Sinister is a great film. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Bagul is probably a character that doesn't get mentioned a lot, but should. He's kind of like the Willy Wonka of scary people.
I like that.
But check this one out. Yeah, it's definitely one that's a keeper if you haven't seen Sinister. But let's move on to our next one, my man.
All right.
You don't want to hurt anyone.
But I do, and I'm sorry. It won't stop.
2002's The Ring, directed by Gore Verbinski, who also directed Rango, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, The Cure for Wellness, The Mexican, Mouse Hunt, and The Bomb, the movie of the Lone Ranger. The film stars Naomi Watts, Martin Henderson, Brian Cox, David Dorfman, Jane Alexander, and Devay Chase. This film, in my opinion, is very creepy just for Samara, the girl who is in the film. Uh, it's one of the films that started the whole, static, freak people out for static TV. And when you have all that static on your TV, what's going to happen? And you have the video come out of the girl in the well. You have people freaking out about that. Of course, it is based off a Japanese film called Ringu, which is also very good. I actually reviewed that one for 31 Days of Horror, I believe, last year. But this one is definitely holds up as the American version. It just for the fact that it freaked people out with the static and their TV having that. For those who lived prior to digital age and had 3, 7, 5, 12, 32 for your TV channels, uh, static on the TV was something that usually happened if you would flip between the channels. If you played the old video games, Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Atari, you had to put your channel 3 on your box TV, your tube TV. There would be static there. And this film kind of like took that and made it scary because that's what shows up when you watch the film. The film kind of encapsulates all those fears that you have. It made 249 million on a $48 million budget, so it made a lot of money. It's just it's a great film. And my wife says those fucking antennas. It's true, those fucking antennas. But there is a Japanese version of this film, and this is a good rendition done in the American version, which I think something that kind of gets lost in translation. A lot of Japanese horror is done very, very well and culturally, and unfortunately, when it comes over to the American movie side, it's not really done that well. But this is one of those films that does a great, great job. When I was doing research for this film, I found that Chris Cooper was actually in this film, and he had a small role in it, but he was cut on the cutting room floor, which I thought was pretty sucky because Chris Cooper is a great, great actor. Uh, just so many scenes in this film are creepy. From the video, you have the nail going to the person's finger, the woman combing her hair. The ending is epic when Noah gets killed and she comes through the wall after him. And then the thing that always made me creeped out was that was not supposed to be scary was the son. I always thought he was weird. Aiden, David Dorfman, he was always weird in the film that he creeped me out when I was watching it. Like, what about you, Tom? Did you think the son in this film was creepy, like David Dorfman? Like he always like was weird to me.
Oh, very, very creepy. Very, very, very creepy. A lot of things in this movie are creepy. Um, for a long time, just looking at VHSs creeped me out because I was afraid to put one in and then I'd see the ring. But then I also like the spoof of it too in the scary movies, the way they spoofed it too. But
Yeah, yeah.
very creepy though. Very creepy.
They even spoofed in Robot Chicken, where she's doing one of those dating videos.
Yes. Yes.
Sam says, "I thought this was a classic romantic comedy about the best man losing the ring the night before the wedding, and the boys had to find it and get into hijinks. The ring."
No.
No,
Oh,
Sam,
yes, that would have been
definitely not. That would have been hilarious. But yeah, just the griminess of the film. Again, I saw this film in high school and my senior year in high school, and my buddy that I saw it with, we went to the theater to see it. I drove him home, dropped him off, and then like he was telling me the next day at school, he's like, "Yeah, man, I turned on my TV to watch some TV, and the static came on." He goes, I automatically turned it off right away." So it gives you that creepiness factor, and that's good movies. Good movies do like they still freak you out. So see, the only thing that I would say is different from the Japanese version is Samara. She is very creepy in the film, but when they show her face here, the one in Ringu is scarier because this is a little too much CGI for me. Uh, but it's still a good film. Like I still enjoyed this one. The sequel, not so much. I thought it was okay. But this one I enjoy. If you want to see a Japanese version, see that one. It has subtitles, but it's totally worth watching. And then this one is worth watching as well. Be sure to check out The Ring if you haven't.
Ringu, yeah. And Ringu's great too. I always love that name, Ringu. Good
Yes,
good
Ringu.
name, especially because everybody heard of this one first, but then once you saw this one, everyone's like, no, go back and watch Ringu. And then they're both though really good.
Yeah, both very, very good. Good ones. We got some breaking news. The Bulls won a preseason game today, 139-137 over those Cleveland Cavaliers.
Woo!
The baby Bulls, baby. But yeah, if you haven't, check out Ringu and check out The Ring. They're both very, very good films. Both different styles, but they're the same, basically the retelling of the same story. And like I said, it kind of got that found footage video, phase going again. Different horror, but good. Let's go on to your next film, Tone.
All right, let's do it.
What have you done to him, you maniac?
Satan is his father, not Guy. He came up from hell and begat a son of mortal woman. Hail, Satan!
Hail, Satan!
Satan is his father, and his name is Adrian. He shall overthrow the mighty and lay waste their temples. He shall redeem the despised and wreak vengeance in the name of the burned and the tortured.
1968's Rosemary's Baby, directed by Roman Polanski, who did Chinatown, The Tenant, The Ghostwriter, The Pianist, and The Ninth Gate. It stars Mia Farrow, John Cassavetes, Ruth Gordon, and Sidney Blackmer. The movie had a budget of $3.2 million with $33 million in the box office and $320 million in home market sales. Tone, tell me why you picked this one.
Because I saw you picked. Well, we're gonna talk about it next, so I can't say it. But I was looking for something from way back then, and I remember again walking in when I was really young, and my mom was watching this, and again the idea very scary, woman giving birth to the devil's baby. But the way it is all wrapped up, just really, really creeps me out. The music creeps me out. The performances are wow. Ruth Gordon, she does a great job in this movie as the neighbors. But again, John Cassavetes, great as a director, but he does a great job as this husband trying to get the part in the role, in the movie, and that's where you start to feel as the movie goes along more and more uneasiness. Just a really good movie, I think, in the scary and spooky department.
Definitely creepy. Sam, you said the director of Rosemary's Baby fucking lives in the house next door to me. If that's true, Sam, he is a wanted criminal. Not gonna go into everything about him, but search his name and you'll see why.
Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's a
in the spacey category.
Yeah. But back to the film. This film still holds up to this day. It's still very creepy. Even when I was looking for sounds for this, that whole monologue I gave is much longer. But the music that plays that goes with her freaking out when she's looking at the baby is excellently done. It fits perfectly. The score for the film, it's shot nice. It still holds up in terms of freaking you out, in terms of atmosphere. Ruth Gordon does a great job. As you said, Mia Farrow is excellent in this film. There's so many like legends that have been brought out of this film in terms of Once Upon a Time Out. Okay, I was like, what? Once Upon a Time Out. I wasn't thinking about it that way, Sam. Thank you. But there's the legend that Anton LaVey, if you don't know who Anton LaVey is, he was a leader of the this group, the Church of Satan in the 60s, and he was the high priest of that church. He started, if you look up Anton LaVey, you see that he's always associated with Satan. He claimed to have been the devil in this film, and he was in the rape scene with Rosemary. There's a lot of books that said that it was him that was in the film. He claimed to have owned a devil suit that he wore in this film. That all came out to be bullshit. LaVey was known to basically lie a lot. I mean, he also said he slept with Marilyn Monroe and had pictures of letters that she sent him, which turned out not to be true. But it's kind of like adds to the lore of the film. It's just a creepy film. And I love the fact that they never show the baby.
Yeah, well, that's a really, really creepy thing too, because it leaves the imagination. I mean, especially me, it's got his eyes, it's just the way he says it, just very, very creepy, very creepy.
Yeah, it set the standard for like The Omen, with Damien, when he looks like a normal kid. But, like think of it, like what would you do if this was your kid?
Well, that's it, and also very interesting that you brought to the table was that it's one of the only horror films that has a waltz as a theme song. Usually, I should have known this and I didn't before doing this was generally almost waltzes are in 3/4 time and generally never are horror themes in 3/4 time. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a still a creepy film. I remember seeing it and like it's been parodied. It was parody and This Is the End, where Jonah Hill gets raped by the demon.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, and he says the same line she says, this is really happening. This is really happening. That's what she says in the film, and he says it, and the demon's eyes are looking at him and her. It's
Those are
just
creepy eyes.
yeah, it's been parodied. It's still creepy. Great pick, man. Great pick for this one. When I saw it, I was like, oh shit, that's a good one. Sam says, this guy I work with is always like, guess what movie? And then he totally misquote a really obscure movie. Yeah, Sam's giving us crap because that line that he said was from the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I took it as literal for some reason in my mind, so I'm sorry, Sam, I let you down. He gave us crap for saying I thought this guy's new cinema. Shake my head. Sorry, Sam, to let you down there. Sorry. But yeah, Rosemary's Baby, totally worth it. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It still holds up to this day. The movie is over 55 years old. Still creepy. So sometimes some of the greatest movies are made back in the day. And talking about one of the greatest movies made back in the day, Tone, let's go into our next.
Well, then let's introduce ourselves. I'm Damien Karras.
And I'm the devil. Now kindly undo these straps.
If you're the devil, why not make the straps disappear?
That's much too vulgar display of power, Karras.
Where's Reagan?
In here with us.
1973's The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin, who also directed To Live and Die in L.A., The French Connection, Cruising, Killer Joe, Jade, a Mary Michaels and Dougie special, Bug, and Blue Chips. The film stars Alan Bernstein, Max von Sydow, Linda Blair, Lee J. Cobb, and Jason Miller. The movie had a budget of $11 million and made a whopping $430 million at the box office, making it the biggest R-rated horror film at the time. It held the record for the most money made by a R-rated horror film, which was eventually overtaken by It in 2017. It also had $7 million in home market sales. What more can we say about The Exorcist? It is considered the greatest horror film by some. It's the godfather of horror films. In terms of godfather as is to mafia films, this film is to horror films. William Friedkin was way ahead of his time in terms of shooting it. William Peter Blatty, who wrote the original book, and actually got that money for writing that book, being on a Groucho Marx's show, what his TV show where he gave away money to contestants that answered questions. He won money for that, I think $10,000, and he said he was going to write a novel, and this was a novel he wrote, was The Exorcist. It was one of the first horror films to win Oscars. People complained about it for not, if it was going to win the best Oscar film, which I think it should have. People were mad that if it was, there's directors boycotting it, which I think, well, fuck you, because you don't want anything new. I'm sorry. I swore there, but that's what it is. It's influential that it's constantly reproduced in horror, the possession. And a film like this cannot be reproduced. It cannot be reimagined to a way where you're going to take the original source material and do something the same, remaking of it, in my opinion, to the same degree. Although I do love The Exorcist 3, I thought it was done very well, but it's still by the same person, and William Peter Blatty, who directed that. This film set the gold standard to me. It still freaks me out. The Linda Blair, transformation from a sweet girl to a horrible looking demon, her voice, pea soup, the cursing, the crucifix scene, Max Sydow, Jason Miller beating the shit out of the devil. It had a lot of realism in it to the point where William Friedkin had the people actually in an ice box to see the real breath come from their mouth. Linda Blair injured her back for scenes on this because she was tied to a rope that basically had her go up and down in the bed. It's creepy. There was things on the set that people said were possessed or bad luck. It's awesome. Ozzy Osbourne loves this film. He watched it 8 times in a row, apparently, to inspire him to be his character. It's I could go on forever about this film, Tom. What do you think about it?
Amazing movie. Jason Miller has 2 sons who were each in a vampire movie. Can you name both vampire movies?
I can name one of them. And his son is Jason Patrick from Lost Boys.
Well, the other one, which I don't want to set you up, you did the movie the other day. It was Near Dark. His son is Jason Miller in that movie.
Oh, he is, yes.
Which, again, Jason Miller is awesome in The Exorcist. I don't know why I like his character so much from the first time I seen it. I was lucky enough to see that, which if you like it or don't, but they re-released the movie in theaters with the added footage. When was that? Not that it wasn't too long ago that they.
It was the 2000s. I know they added the footage of her when she's in the.
At least just the coming down the stairs part where she's like walking backwards.
Spider walk, yeah.
Awesome movie. We had the conversation last week about The Exorcist 3. I'm glad I haven't seen it yet because that probably would have been picked too because that looks super, super scary. You ever see The Exorcist 2?
Yeah, it's horrible.
Okay, that's what I've heard. I was curious from you, a big horror fan, officially.
And it has great actors in it. It has Linda Blair. It has James Earl Jones. The devil's name, the demon's name in The Exorcist is Pazuzu, right?
Yeah.
That name is repeated so many damn times in The Exorcist 2. It's ridiculous. It was a cash grab. Even William Friedkin hated it. Linda Blair hated it. Which made her not want to do any other sequels, which who can blame her? But you have like Ned Betty's in it, Max Van Sydow's in that one again. Richard Burton's in the film. He's one of the lead characters. It just it ruined it. Like,
speaking of bad, what about that new one that came out?
Oh, that was horrible. And this kind of goes with what I wanted to say. Mike Flanagan, who we just went over one of his films that I think Mike Flanagan's a great director. He does good stuff. I'm not going to say he doesn't. I like some of his stuff. He is coming out with a new Exorcist film.
Say it's the scariest ever. I saw that today.
And no, it's not the scariest ever. Mike Flanagan, Dr. Sleep, loved it. No, like I said, I love the book, the movie better than I did the book. Great job. But you're not going to make the essence of The Exorcist, in my opinion, to this generation. I think it's been watered down so many times because it's been tried so many times to recapture that it's not going to be at that level. Like, you're going against, that's like if somebody remade The Godfather. Like, true. Would you really, really want to watch that?
No.
Like the way The Godfather was shot. I'm not being like a film snob. I'm just thinking in my mind, like, The Exorcist was done way before its time. It was done with technique.
American Psycho's my Godfather, and I'm having a hard time. That's why I asked earlier.
Like, it's like, even the crazy thing is, to go off a little off subject. Well, not really off subject, but for Father Karras, they wanted Marlon Brando to play Father Karras, which is like a tie-in to The Godfather. But Brando's actually, apparently he's mentioned in the novel. I have never read the novel, which maybe I should. But Sam says he's working on his version of The Godfather. I just don't. It really annoys me that Hollywood cannot stop doing cash grabs and ruining films that had good, profitability, yes, but also like good tenure in terms of how the way they were viewed. Yeah. I didn't like the new Exorcist that came out. I thought it was really bad.
It was.
And it was made by the same guy who ruined the Halloween franchise.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll give that film credit for this. At least it was kind of a continuation of the original.
Yeah.
Now you're going to remake this film, and I guarantee you they're probably going to use CGI, which a lot of the effects in the original Exorcist were practical, which made it so creepy. Uh, you're going to use CGI to do all this, and it's not going to hit the same. People will go see it, and I know I'm going to go see it. I'm just going to be pissed. That's what I'm sorry.
We don't want that. We don't want you pissed.
No, and maybe you do because people like when I get mad. But
well.
but no, people like when I get mad because they think that my rants are
not mad.
Yeah, that's gonna be me at the theater. But it's just why can't we have so many talented film writers and you have like so many great screenplays out there, and you're going back and remaking stuff because just to ruin it. And if it bombs, you're messing up people who could possibly have something that could be original idea going off the first film.
You know what's great is you fall right into what I wanted to say earlier, and I couldn't get it out with The Prophecy. That's what made The Prophecy so great, was that it was an original idea in 1995, and they're not really doing too many of those these days. An original idea that you can make sequels off of, but it's an original idea. Not here is Overboard with Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn when they're 80. We loved it back then, but now maybe not.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, man. One creepy thing about this film though is there's like a person named Paul Bateson, and when Reagan goes to get her X-ray at the NYU Medical Center, he's one of the X-ray techs. He's the bearded guy. The crazy thing about Paul Bateson is he's actually a murderer.
Oh.
He was sentenced to 20 years. He bragged about, the murder, and he's suspected in killing at least 6 other men. So you kind of have like a semi serial killer in the film, which is kind of crazy to go along with this. There's just this
Very
film
cool also is the music. I mean, Tubular Bells.
Oh yes,
used by the great Mike Oldfield in the soundtrack is of course iconic.
Yeah, and just also the iconic shots. We have this one, which is probably one of the most iconic shots of father coming up to the actual house, with the music playing. The like just the whole persona of Reagan, everybody gets freaked out about it. This is one of the few films that actually scared me as a kid.
Yeah.
Just because of her voice. Even the scenes of when, Jason Miller goes into the room and the father's dead, Max Sandow is dead, and he looks at Reagan and she turns into his mom in the nut house.
Yeah.
Like that, just stuff like that. And then they cut back to her, she's smiling, which is crazy. And The Exorcist is actually based off a true story. If you go and listen to Astonishing Legends, which is a great, great podcast on paranormal and all that stuff, they do a deep dive into the original Exorcist story, which is actually based off a male in St. Louis. They do a deep dive into that. They also do a great one into the exorcism of Emily Rose, which is a whole other based off a true story.
I'm laughing at Mailman Jack.
Oh.
He's on fire. I keep thinking about him calling his parents from the lobby when his sister. Now he's still pissed.
I bet my sister's just thinking about this movie. Yeah, just those two little subjects, are great deep dives by them. They do a great job doing it. And I always try to promote their podcast because it's a good stuff to listen to. But yeah, this is the gold standard of horror. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, and you'll find out why. Some people will say it's not scary, and it might not be scary to you, but you have to appreciate the art that was gone into it. It's just one of those iconic films.
Yes.
All right, that's enough about me ranting and getting mad about remakes. Tone, let's go into our last film of the night, my friend.
When the girl ate, her food was given to her warm and tasty. But when the shadow was hungry, she had to eat rabbit, raw and bloody.
2019's Us, directed by Jordan Peele, who also directed Nope and Get Out. It stars Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Elizabeth Moss, Tim Heidecker, and Shandai Wright Josephie. I'm sorry if I mispronounced those names. The movie had a budget of $20 million and a box office of $256, along with $8 million in home market sales. Tell me why you picked this one.
I think this is number one. I think this is my favorite Jordan Peele movie so far. I'd like just the overall concept that he put together for this movie. I think it's very done well. If you really think about how deep it is, maybe that's my problem. Is I just think how deep this movie is. The idea of, well, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to give anything away, but the idea of them being like an alternate version of us, like underneath us, underground, that was like kept. But the way he films it and the way everyone from Elizabeth Moss to Lupita Nyong'o, it does just a great job. Winston Duke does a great job. That part you play, the way she is able to play both parts. And then what you end up realizing is that I love the twist in the movie. What you realize is that the one that you think is the real one was actually the one that was taken, and it was vice versa. And that's what's kind of so mentally crazy to think about, is that's why she's able to talk, is because she was actually, not to give anything away again. I did give a lot of things away, but I just like the overall scary vibe of the movie personally.
He's like,
I didn't.
Didn't give anything away, but
I did.
No, it's all good, man. This is I really like Get Out. Get Out's probably my favorite Jordan Peele film. This one though was a nice follow up to it. This film is good. Good original story, and I am a huge fan of original stories. I really hated Nope, from the Jordan Peele filmography. I didn't like Nope, but I like this one. I thought it was a good follow up to his horror films in Get Out. Like you said, great performances by Lupita Nyong'o, who does a great job. I found it crazy that Peele actually gave the cast 11 horror films to get them kind of in the mood to film this film, and like they were Jaws, Set Again, The Shining, The Babadook, It Follows, A Tale of Two Sisters, The Birds, Funny Games, Martyrs, Let the Right One In, and The Sixth Sense are the films he wanted them to watch.
I love Funny Games.
Yeah. Those are all great films to watch. This one has a complex story, lots of twists and turns, visually beautifully shot. And that's one thing I will say about Peele. Even though I did not like Nope, it was beautifully shot.
I think the problem with Nope was it was like if it was more about that monkey who destroyed the movie set. I mean, like there was parts of it that were interesting, but then there were parts of it that were just like long and drawn out almost, it felt like.
I think, to go off subject of Nope, I think Jordan Peele sometimes gets caught up in symbolism.
Yeah.
And in Nope, with the shoe standing up, that meant nothing. People were like, what does that mean? What does that mean? They're trying to look into, because he's known for symbolism. It takes away from the actual point. Also, I thought the acting, you had two great actors in that film, was not really well done. I thought they felt like, especially the main character, he felt like he didn't want to be there acting.
Yeah.
And I kind of got that feeling from it. And you killed Keith David, which is like one of my favorite guys. But that's just me. I mean, I had an argument on here about Nope. I didn't like it, but like a debate, wasn't really an argument. But back to this film though, I thought it was very, very well done. Jordan Peele is up and coming when it comes to horror. I will not call him the king of horror, have other people have called him, because there's only one person that I can think of with that name, and that's John Carpenter. And that's who Jordan Peele also says is, in terms of horror films. But he is making, putting some good stuff under his belt in terms of directing. This film is a good follow-up, I said, to Get Out. Like, if you haven't seen this one, check this one out. Great story, great visuals, and very, very creepy.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Creepy, creepy, creepy. I just like the way at the very beginning, I like the way, like, there's a lot of, like, as you stated, when you work with a lot of symbolism, when you do it well, it could work in your favor. When you do it not so well. Like in Nope, it could not be so well. And that's why it's kind of like this one, he does a good job. I mean, Get Out is great. Just watched that one recently. Probably I haven't watched Us in a little while, but Get Out I watched about a month ago. Great movie. I'm curious to see, because he just set the date for his next movie, if he gets back on track. But we'll see.
Yeah, they don't even have a title for it. It's coming out in 2026.
Well, that's always, he's doing the Shyamalan game where he's like, it's a Shyamalan movie and it's going to come out and you're going to be spooked. But then it's like, well, Nope was more like The Village. And I don't know if I'm, not like The Village, but like in
terms of hype.
People, and people accepting it. And what was he really trying to pull off? And Spaceship was kind of stupid, but again.
Well, the Alien, that was stupid.
Well, that was stupid too.
But I'll give it to him. He tried.
Yeah. Well, you got to always give it to anybody willing to do anything outside of their comfort zone and thinking this guy was all comedy, and he actually does a good job in horror. It's pretty refreshing.
Yeah, he does. It's something different. I do like different stuff. Like I said, I want more original ideas, and I'll give him credit. He's going even the revival of the Twilight Zone that he did. I like that too.
Yeah.
So shout out to him. Listening to more of his interviews, he has a respect for the genre. He's a comedian, and it's always amazes me that comedians turn out to be like the most understanding of acting and film, because they have to play off people's emotions, and he does a great job in it. But yeah, definitely check this one out. I love that you picked this one for our last one, because it's more of a modern, even though we have more other modern films, but this is like more of the more newer films.
Yeah.
But check out Us. It's a good follow up to Get Out, even though they're not related, but it's a good follow up in the second movie. Don't check out Nope. No. Nah. But those are our 10 films. Sorry for rambling on. I know I rambled on a lot in this one. But Tone, any final thoughts?
Great picks. I mean, you're going to sit down and want to be scared, spooked, frightened, send chills. All 10 of them are going to give you a different kind of feeling. I mean, you may never, according to Mailman Jack, you may never sleep again if you watch The Exorcist. But then again, I may never sleep again if I just watch the beginning of The Shining. So we'll have to see what happens, because now I feel like I'm going to watch The Prophecy tomorrow.
I'm gonna play the Shining for my wife before she goes to sleep tonight. Yeah, if you have a different list of films that scared you, let us know. Like, we're really, really open to, seeing our viewers and listeners list. Let us know at our Twitter handles, Lil Yumper and at the Sugar Baggy, or at the show Pod on Twitter. Yeah, it was a good one, Tone. These are films that, just thinking about them in my mind, like I can see why they freaked me out, my man.
Yeah.
Before we do are coming soon, let's promote our shirt that is on sale. So let me roll that. So be sure to buy the new Penguin Voorhees sweater or shirt. It's only out for a limited time over at statisticpenguinstudios.bigcartel.com. Greatly appreciate everyone for listening. Tone, are you ready to tell everybody what we're going to be playing next week?
Yes.
Okay, let's go into our coming soon.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Coming soon.
Próximamente.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
All right, next week, which sadly is the last Friday of October. Wah, wah. But we are going to celebrate by picking out maybe some of the more lesser known monsters, creatures, maybe somebody who slashes. We'll have to go through and see, and it will be a awesome, like we have been doing, a 5 and 5. and we've been really digging through some really classics. So I'm excited to see what the last 10 movies we're going to pick between the both of us are.
Yes, yes, I am very, very excited to get into that. Also, there might be a special pod coming. I have to see how my schedule looks for the week. Was thinking about doing something where maybe we sit around and tell some ghost stories before Halloween. I know, Tone, you were interested in that. I just got to see how everybody else's schedule is going before we do so. I'll try to get that done, but be sure to check us out on the Statistic Penguin Studios website. Tony's been doing a great job doing 31 blogs in 31 days on all Halloween related songs, whether they be horror related or, he did Nightmare on Elm Street the other day. What was today's, Tone? I can't remember.
Today was the Amazing Joy Division, Dead Souls.
Yes.
Which you love of course, the Crow soundtrack, which Nine Inch Nails did an amazing cover. It's been really fun because you get to look at a little bit deeper on these songs that I've listened to so much. Earlier in the show, we talked Pet Sematary. I did that song earlier. It's just cool because you just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And I'm excited to keep sharing that. Next Friday, the Hookup on Music will be back live. Tonight, unfortunately, work got in the way, and that was scarier than any of the movies that we talked about tonight. But really excited to come back next week with that. And again, Brian's coming back on Tuesday with a brand new It's Getting Drafty in here. Got his shirt on right here. I think they're doing the small people of wrestling, as he said, or the cruiserweight division. So that should be good.
I wonder how many people are going to try to draft Rey Mysterio.
Oh, I drive Dominic.
Nah, somebody's got to pick El Dandy. But also
La Parca.
La Parca, yeah, he was awesome, but he's kind of a big guy.
He was. He was big. We used to make that joke. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, go ahead. No, it's funny. He's a big guy and he does a little dance on the chair. He was like
dance with the chair on WCW.
Yeah. CMLL, and AAA. I used to watch them. There should be a character in AAA called Charlie Manson.
Oh.
He actually went to jail for beating the shit out of somebody. He got out and he made his return recently. But yeah, that was his name, Charlie Manson. But yeah, there's a bunch of characters in there that deal with like horror, like Vampiro and Supernatural, and of course Charlie Manson, La Parca. You have Pentagon was, even though he looked like a ninja, he can be considered not only no, Pentagon actually does look like a demon. Just a bunch of like great characters in
Psychosis was a good one.
Psychosis, oh yeah. Or like Bret Hart called them Hypnosis. But also, if you haven't been checking out the YouTube, we have 31 Days of Horror. I've been releasing a new horror film every day. I'll be releasing one tomorrow at 8:15 a.m. Also, I released a short related to the film. Check those out. We are going into day 19. So I've done 18 videos so far, and then we still got 12 left to go. Hopefully check them out and let me know what you think. Also, there's a film that you haven't seen on there and you want to recommend, just shoot me a message. I can see if I can get it fitted in for the upcoming ones.
You love horror movies out there, people. When I saw you did Demonic Toys, that brings me right back to my VHS 1993, going to the video store, Puppet Master. We brought it up last week. Demonic Toys, great. Wasn't it Demonic Toys versus Puppet Master, or Doll Man versus?
Yeah,
Demonic?
both. There's both of them. There's one versus Puppet Master and one versus Doll Man.
So cool, my man. So cool. Check those out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That one was funny because of Baby Oopsie Daisy.
Yes.
I sent that video to Sam, and I'm like, Sam, just watch it. Just watch this video for Baby Oopsie Daisy alone. And like, it's so ridiculous, the character of Baby Oopsie Daisy. If you haven't seen that one, check that one. I released that one a couple days ago. Today's was actually on the last broadcast, which is a precursor to the Blair Witch Project, a film that was a found footage film, one of the earlier American found footage films. It's a good one to check out. Creepy. Also, you can watch it for free on YouTube. So check that one out. But Tone, we went through our housekeeping, went through our coming soon. Let's close this one up with the Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week, my friend.
Let's do it.
If I can find the graphic here, where are you? Did they delete our Sugar Baggy graphic tone?
Sugar Baggy? There's no Sugar Baggy?
Oh, here we go. The Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week.
Who's the Godfather horror? You brought his name up just a little while ago.
John Carpenter, my friend.
Why not talk about Halloween and the Halloween soundtrack tonight? You know why? Because we all know the main cut off of that album. Okay, the main cut from the movie. I said the album because it is a soundtrack, which ironically, the full soundtrack was not released until 1983 in the United States. Like, you could not get it on a record until 1983, which is crazy because the movie had already been out 5 years. But I love the other sounds in the movie. I mean, just that little piece right there. I mean, that plays in my head all the probably more than actually the but throughout the whole entire movie, the way that John Carpenter just is able to place these synth lines throughout it, with the help of Dan Wyman, who is very one of his helpers who helps him on these soundtracks, who actually does the programming on the synthesizer. But as far as Halloween movies go, or scary movies go, or scary soundtracks go, I mean, Halloween's got to be up there towards the top, doesn't it? Yep.
Yeah, iconic, piano film song with Michael Myers that everybody knows. Like a lot of synthesizers, a lot of piano in the film. I really like the score for it. Great job by John Carpenter, who's a musician as well. You know, his best song though is "Big Trouble in Little China."
Oh, it is definitely. And I wish I would have known you about, I think it was like 10 years ago when he came to town to Aragon Ballroom. And he played and you got to meet and greet him. That would have been real cool for the At the Show podcast to say, "Hey man, it's us, your biggest fan."
Yeah,
But,
I trying to get him to follow our account.
we're gonna get him sometimes. He's, he seems like,
Oh, he's a good guy.
He seems like a very cool, very awesome, always saying cool stuff, which is what I like about him the most.
Yeah, he's an awesome dude. Great pick, Tom. Great pick.
Thank you.
So that is our show. We're under the 2-hour mark, which is good.
Yeah.
For some. But be sure to check us out on statisticpenguinstudios.com for blogs, getting drafty in here, as well as the Grateful Ducks, which does their tailgate with Bruhan Luke. Also, Mailman Jack. Aloha Mr. Hand dropped a collector's corner, 2 collector's corners actually, one on Pete Rose and memorabilia, which was really, really good. And he dropped another one that was awesome, was on the October 15th, 1988, a day in history for both college football, the Convicts versus Catholics, as well as the first World Series game between the Dodgers and the Oakland Athletics, the Kirk Gibson game, which I thought was really, really awesome. So be sure to check those out. Have you ever seen the Helltown movie? No, I don't think I've ever seen the Helltown movie. Have you, Tom?
No, never heard of that.
2017 Helltown? Is that what you're talking about?
Welcome to Frogtown. Isn't that with the one with Browdy Piper? No.
Welcome to Frogtown. I've heard of Helltown, like in Weird USA, I think. But I would definitely check it out. Is it the 2017 one you're talking about, Mr. Corncob? If so, let me know, and I'll definitely check it out. But yeah, thanks again for watching, listening, putting up with us ramble.
Yeah, we love talking movies. Love when you join us talking or rambling about movies.
Yeah, we appreciate it. If you want to get into the movie conversation, you can always add us on Twitter.
Please do.
And have a great night, and we will see you next week to talk about some not well-known horror characters. Take it easy, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?